Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Cari Sans, Cari Sans coach and therapist, and today I am here with Mary Betsellie. And Mary, I asked Mary to join me today because so much is going on right now in the world. So much has shifted for all of us. And many parents are in a position right now where, really every parent, right, that has a child in school is in a position right now to homeschool their child. And I think a lot of parents are feeling, in me personally, even though I've always been interested in homeschooling, never really got into researching it enough to really understand what it looks like and what you can do with it. So, Mary, you happened to post something on Facebook this week, and your message was just so calming for me. Like I felt like, like I had that breath, like, okay, this is okay. I don't have to be, looking to do all these different things. Well, anyways, I'll have you talk about your experience with it. Maybe you can share more. Just to share with you, ladies, that Mary is a student midwife and a doula. And I've met Mary many, many years ago. And so I've been friends with you on Facebook. And I feel like you've always bring a very compassionate presence, a very grounded, nurturing kind of presence to anything that you share. So I thought it would be great to talk with you about this. And I'm hoping that today you can just share some thoughts, some tips or strategy, whatever you want to share with us. And also, just so all of you know, Mary is the mother of a 16-year-old who she's been homeschooling his entire academic career, I guess we'll call it. And so she does have experience with this. So Mary, welcome, and thank you for being here today and offering some words of encouragement, support, wisdom that would help some of us mamas out that are feeling very uncertain about what all this means for us right now.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for inviting me. And I am so happy that that little post, touched the people that it did. I did get a lot of reactions to it, and I'm really happy. It was just a very simple post, and it was, just a few lines that summed up some of the very big lessons that I learned. That kind of took me a little while to learn these things because I didn't have somebody there to just lay those out for me. So it was just things that stuck with me. And I will say this is, for the people that are suddenly have their children at home, it's not 100% really homeschooling, because I think that there are plans for kids to eventually go back. And I think I've been seeing or hearing that the school might be providing some curriculum. And so it's not exactly the same, but it still is home learning. And I feel like some of my message or all of the message that I shared applies, even though it's not fully. And who knows, maybe some people might continue with the homeschooling once they see. So, I think a big misconception that people have, and I probably even thought this too initially, was that what homeschool looks like. And a lot of people have the tendency to want to just recreate the school in their home. And that's not really how homeschooling looks like for most people. So it looks different for everybody because families are so different. Right. Children are different, their learning styles are different. And when you are teaching your children at home, you have a little bit more of a luxury to kind of cater to that, as opposed to, a teacher who might have 15, 20, 25 kids in their class. They kind of have to keep everything uniform and try to keep everybody, otherwise it would get crazy. They just can't give that individualized attention. So that's the first thing. But homeschooling really, for most people, doesn't look like kids sitting down, at a desk or even at the kitchen table for 5 hours a day. And I did see a couple of people posting schedules, and I kind of just giggle. And I giggle because I tried to go that route initially. So we did a little preschool stuff with a co-op and everything, but then I started buying curriculum for kindergarten, and I tried to kind of, I started out that way, like I'm going to have a schedule. And one of the things that I posted and that I learned, thank God I learned it early on, was to not try and really force any kind of a schedule or even a routine, but to find a rhythm, and a rhythm that works. And what I mean by a rhythm is, I look at it like breathing. In the rhythm there's an in and there's an out. And so I don't know who's watching this and what age ranges people are really, but I'll go more toward the younger ones. So what I'm talking about rhythm is maybe that you don't do everything the same every day, or you're not sticking to an exact schedule or a plan, but you might wake up and kind of just get breakfast going, do little cuddles, get breakfast going, share time, and then slowly begin to have that out breath and do something active, whatever that activity is. Something where the kids can use their energy up a little bit. And, so for an example, now the weather's starting to get kind of nice. You could, even though we're not supposed to be in public places, if you have a backyard, you can go in the backyard. They can kind of let things out. You could take a walk, you can take a hike. Now there's a lot of virtual stuff going on online. So you could even find, like, for the little ones, like a virtual circle time, something where they're using their energy and they're out. And what I love about the outdoor stuff is, you could even collect stuff from the outdoors that you can use for crafts later on. So you're actually making, extra use of your time, and then after that out, period, that might go into late morning, you might kind of slow things down a little bit, and then maybe do a snack time, and then pull it in a little bit, and then, breathing out again, doing some more active work. Here's where maybe now where you could do a little more of the academic work. And then, at some point, a lunchtime, and then make every single day a space for quiet time. So for little ones, that might look like a nap. For older ones, that could just be letting them just hang out and do their own thing on their devices or whatever, and then in the afternoon, have another big out breath where you're doing something active again. And that is what I mean about, like, your daily rhythms. So it doesn't have to be the same thing every day, but if you kind of follow that, where the energy is kind of in and out, it's going to be good for everyone, even yourself, because quiet time is for you, the adult, the teacher, right? And so that's what I meant about, the part about the rhythm. And, I found that we would have a daily rhythm, but we also ended up with like a weekly rhythm and even a monthly rhythm. So I would suggest that instead of trying to stick to a hardcore schedule, think of it more as like a rhythm. And you can have goals about what kind of work you want to get done, but if it's not flowing, I also suggest don't push it. So I very much come from the school of thought where I always tried to follow my child's lead and see where his interests lied. And then some of the other points that I made in the post were to nurture the child and not the curriculum. So I came to that because there was a lot of, who's using what curriculum, and I found that, my child didn't always, for example, for younger ones, the curriculum might say, okay, we'll now have circle time. And some kids, they just don't really like to sit, usually circle time requires them to be in your lap or be next to you and to sit down, but they might be bouncing off the couch. That doesn't mean that they're not learning. That doesn't mean that you might think they're not paying attention, but they just aren't the type of child to sit down. So if the curriculum says you have to sit in a circle, it's okay to nurture the child and let the child do it the way that they want to, because again, you're not in a circle of, there's not in a class of 25, unless you have a really large family and you're trying
Oh
to
boy.
homeschool them all. Yeah. And when go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, that's something, just a tip to take, just in general, to, be more in the flow versus trying to control the situation. And when you see all that resistance coming up, like you have that child, you're trying to read them a story and they're jumping up and down and you're like, no, you need to sit in bed first, right?
Right. And you don't even know that they are actually learning or absorbing the information. It's just in their own way. And when I say that, I also mean, like, even what I'm saying is don't put a hard schedule in place. There might be kids out there that need that, and right now, there's a lot of uncertainty in the air, and, I don't know how kids are really reacting to it all. And, kids do need to know that there is someone sort of in control, and some kids might actually need that routine, they might feel comfortable. And so it even goes for what I'm saying, just because I said don't get into it, if that's what your child seems to really crave or need, or one of them seems to crave or need, I would nurture that too. And not just go by, well, this experienced homeschooler said don't do that. So yes, I'm very much into like nurture the child. And these are benefits that we have as home learners, that we can do that again, that in a larger setting, whether it be a public or even a private school where there are many children, there isn't that opportunity to sort of tailor it,
Yeah.
The other thing I would want to tell people is don't worry, because your child is always learning. Kids love to learn. They love to learn. And there is a learning in everything. And, you can make it fun. And even if the school is sending homework, if the child doesn't seem to be kind of catching on, you can get creative with it and you can teach the concept any way that you want to. And, it doesn't necessarily have to be the way, as long as they learn the concept, So for example, if your child is supposed to be learning fractions, you could definitely, everyone knows you could bake, you could cook, and you can learn fractions that way. And it's a visual, So, that was another point that I had made. And yes, but everyone's children, they're always learning and they want to learn. They love to learn. And then, what were some of the other points that I had made on that post?
So that whole thing, that when you talked about the rhythm, that I think that was the thing that was the reminder for me that, oh yes, you saw, I was one of those moms that saw those different schedules and thinking, okay, how am I going to, move through the day? And it reminded me of that, and going back to that simplicity model and just, that out breath, that inhale. And so I think that's a good guide for, parents to look at, okay, what can we do during that out breath? What can we do to kind of go in and just get quiet for a bit? So I really appreciated that as a reminder. You spoke to, the younger kids. Could you at all, because I know your son is 16 now, speak to some of what happens when they get a little bit older, because I know might be where they're like, my kindergartners don't have much curriculum but the older one might be getting more, you know.
Right. And so, you know, obviously there are certain things, you know, they do outgrow, like circle time and things like
Yeah.
that. And so again, you know, you could, you know, definitely um, use that, you know, that in breath where they may, you know, if there's reading that they have to do, you know, that can be something that you could allot for that, you know, maybe that after lunch, you know, after a, you know, walking it off or something, you know, where that quiet time, where you have that quiet time allotted, you know, you could set them down to do their reading. You know, the thing with the older kids is you don't really have to hold their hands, you know. With your younger ones, it's like, okay, well, we're going to do this craft, and you really have to be very present with them, like all the time. But with the older ones, you know, especially I feel like after around the age of 7 or 8, it gets much easier to kind of just give them little tasks to complete, and then they go ahead and do it, you know, on their own. So, you know, I would say if it was, you know, working stuff where you really had to work out a lot of problems, like some heavy duty math, I might consider that a little more on the out. But, you know, definitely any kind of reading that they have to do, or if there's something that they're supposed to watch, you could like allot that in your quiet time space. And then this way you have an older one and you have younger ones. And so your younger ones might want to do something different. And you can make quiet time, like I didn't do it, but I knew other people that made their quiet time, you know, they made like nice little tents for their kids, and you know, with lots of pillows, and they kind of put them in there and said like, okay, now we're going to do our quiet time. And they would let them have like their picture books or listen to like story audio, you know, books and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, that's how I would kind of maybe fit that in. But, you know, especially with the older ones, and I know with the teens, you know, it's really important that that, you know, you get their breaths in and out before the electronics come out. You know, that can be saved, you know, for later in the afternoon. Otherwise, it's really hard to. And, you know, I know from myself, when I mean, he's 16 now, so he does a lot of work on his own. But, you know, even up to a few years ago, I had to really follow that same thing for myself. You know, if I didn't want him on electronics until 3 o'clock, then I had to pretty much stay off of my electronics until 3 o'clock. So
absolutely, right? They learn what they see.
Yeah.
So I have another question for you in regards to having, now I know you have one child, but I know you've been around other homeschooling families. Any tips or thoughts about what to do when there's different children, different age children, and trying to figure out, you know, when one has this kind of rhythm to him, you know, to themselves, and the other one has a different one, and how to make that all work?
Yeah, well, like I said, you know, like on the quiet time, you can give them all individual, you know, kind of tasks or work to do, you know. And so that part of it is easy, but it's, you know, I guess it's about how to find that out breath. I mean, unfortunately, some of the things that we did on our out breath are not relevant at this time, you know. I mean, you can't go do homeschool family skate now, you know. And so, yeah, I would just say on that out breath, and, you know, homeschool can be fun and they could be learning. And so I would look at what work is being sent home with them too, and maybe for the older kids, and maybe somehow even incorporate that, you know, with the little ones. But yeah, getting them to do things together on that out breath, I think is really where, and if you do your biggest out breaths earlier in the day, then you're going to find your afternoons are going to go much smoother.
So
for everyone.
The academic work, unless it was kind of like independent quiet time, was really part of that out breath, like doing active work.
Yeah, because you can, you know, you can add the academic stuff in It doesn't always have to just be like on a tablet or,
Yeah.
writing down, this, I mean, little ones are great. I mean, there could be learning in everything. I mean,
Right.
you could learn you could do, for example, if you have older ones that are learning their times table, you can go out in the backyard and get some fresh air and throw a ball. And whoever catches the ball has to, say you're doing your 2 times table. So it'd be 2, 4, 6, 8. So your littles might not know the times table. So you'd be throwing the ball and they'd be part of it. And it would be fun for them, but you would just really be helping your older child learn the times.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have to help the little ones when the ball went to them. You would say it for them,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then this way, everyone is doing something together. It doesn't have to be a boring, like we're going to sit down and memorize this. Like we're all going to play ball together as a family. The little ones are going to get a kick out of it. They may even pick up a little bit of that times table, right?
Right.
But your older child is going to memorize their times table,
Right.
because they're going to be, when the ball comes to them, they're going to have to know the answer. And if the ball goes to you or the littles, you can say it. And so anything that has to be memorized, you can just add a ball to it. I used to have a little math basket, and we had cards, playing cards, even that, that could be playing a game, and your little ones can learn less than and greater than, and your
Mm-hmm.
older one could just feel like he's playing a card game, it can just
Right.
be simple stuff,
Yeah.
but I would put little things in the math basket. We had a sparkly ball that we would use for memorizing things, and we had playing cards, and we used beans and little glass beads that I got at Michael's, and we would kind of make our own math games. And there's so many things that you can Google, and they're learning math, but they think they're playing games, and that's something that they can all do together. I mean, even if you had a teenager and say a 5-year-old, like you could get them involved,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the beauty, I think, and the advantage of home learning, right? You can
Yes.
just do all these kind of fun, creative things. I do have another question.
Yeah.
Uh, many parents right now are having to work from home as well and juggle that space for them to do that, as well as how to, keep this rhythm going with their children. Any thoughts about that, or tips or suggestions that you could offer there?
Well, I would say if they have an opportunity to kind of make their own schedule, I know not everybody does, but some people might be working from home and they just might have a workload that they need to get done.
Mm-hmm.
My suggestion again would be do stuff with your kids early in the morning and that big out breath, and you'll get a lot more time to yourself in the afternoon. Unfortunately, there are probably some people that still need to maybe follow a clock.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a little bit unhelpful, in this situation.
Yeah.
And it's not exactly like, I don't think that it's even safe to be calling in people to help with the kids. I
Yeah.
don't know like what the new rules are or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
that, unfortunately, but I would say if you have an opportunity to do the workload on your own time or schedule appointments or whatever it is, I would do as much with the kids as possible earlier in the day.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, this is just tough on everybody. I mean, usually when people are homeschooling and they work from home, it's because they know they can make it work. And
Right.
this is kind of being forced on us, but that would be,
Absolutely.
I
Right.
found that I always got more done when I saved it for the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And then because the child is fulfilled, all of our goals have been met in terms of academically, and they want that time to themselves too,
Mm-hmm.
so they're not like banging
Yeah.
down your door,
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the key thing to kind of take away is that, every child is going to be different. Every home is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And just figuring out that, like you said at the beginning, that rhythm. But I think that out and in breath is a beautiful guide for the day. You know, how even if you are working from home, you know, how could you sort of provide that guide for the kids at a minimum, you know, like this is what, you know, where you're kind of versus it being a schedule, just that this is, all right, this is the time we can just, you know,
Yes, because
inhale or exhale.
that rhythm is also healthy for the adult. And so adults, they're sort of, you know, they're home working now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's homeschooling and now there's home working. And so I think that's also something that can be helpful for the adults, you know, making sure that they have their own, you know, if you schedule quiet time for the kids, I think it's important to also have a little bit of quiet time to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Though I know that adults have more responsibilities than kids, and so our quiet time might not be as long, or we might want to take advantage of that quiet time to get our work done.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is helpful to give yourself a few minutes of quiet time.
Yeah, I think also getting kids involved with, you know, the upkeep of the home as well, so that
Oh
those
yeah.
quiet spaces can be for quiet spaces and not, you know, cleaning up after the kids or, you know, trying to get those things done.
Yes, I mean, I'm a firm believer in getting kids involved,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in everything in the home. I feel like uh, that's very much the way we raised our son, and I feel like it makes him feel like he's a part of the family. You know, he's important. He's a part of this little wheel that we turn. You know, it's just the three of us, but we
Mm-hmm.
still got to keep that wheel turning. You know, and it's not and if you present it in a certain way, you know, it doesn't seem like, wow, these are your chores. You know, I never presented it like that. It was like, okay, we gotta get this going, you know, we're a team, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of present it that way.
Yes, yes. It's a we. This is what we do.
Yes.
Yep.
And
Mm-hmm.
yes, and there's learning in everything. I mean, you know,
Mm-hmm.
there's you know, even just in that, even just in, you know, like you said, people that having them participate,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there can be a great deal of learning that goes like right into that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you. I feel calmer just listening to you talk about it. You know, I think it gives some hope to the situation. You know, this is a difficult time for many trying to figure all this out and juggle. So I hope this provides some relief for many of you as well. Mary, if anyone wanted to reach out to you for any kind of support or resources, I'm going to I'll have you make sure that you're added to the Simplicity for Moms Facebook group so that women can connect with you there. But
Yeah, they can just tag me there.
okay, so if you have any questions, you can just post them here in the group and tag Mary in there, Mary Betsellie, and which I'll leave all the information underneath the video as well, so they'll have that. Um, Mary, thank you so much for
Perfect.
your time.
You're
And
welcome. I hope it helped. And I just, you know, I want everyone to know that I'm not an expert on homeschooling or anything like that. This has just been my experience, and I hope it helps a little bit, you know, in this time. Also, too, it's good that everyone can just relax. There's something called deschooling, and so, you know, I really don't think that we're going to see kids back in school anytime soon, and so I think it's okay to even like give everybody a couple of days to just adjust. Before you really even try to even get that rhythm going or figure it out, you know? And we call that deschooling, you know, because it's a
oh,
different way of learning, yeah. So
oh,
just one last thing to add in.
oh yeah, that's perfect. I appreciate that last point. You know, I felt that myself. Like I think by Thursday, I was like, I'm taking the day and I'm just going to feel into all their rhythm, you know, because I have 3 young ones. And I said, I can't force the day and make it happen. I
Right.
got to figure it out in terms of what's going to work for all of us based on what we each need to, you know, do for ourselves. So Thank you again. Ladies, I hope you've enjoyed this. Please comment below, share any thoughts, any questions. Remember, you can tag Mary as well or myself. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate all.